Hey, what's up? This is Dr. Priyer, and welcome to Kinesiology Major 100. Let's get started on Chapter 1, which is Introduction to Kinesiology. We have about 5 or 6 different objectives here, and the first is just to help you all understand and appreciate just how wide and diverse physical education or physical activity and kinesiology are to our lives. It's literally present in pretty much everything we do. And hopefully, you'll be able to get a better grasp of how much intricate it is into your life, especially if you're trying to engage in a career that has anything to do with movement science. The second objective is just introducing you to different ways of defining and thinking about how activity manifests in your life and career choice. We next go to discussing kin as a discipline, and this discipline has multiple different facets. This is a very, very diverse career or subject matter to study, and noting how the different disciplines within kinesiology relate to our physical activity. So, kinesiology is really a fancy word for the study of human movement. And so, obviously, it's present in pretty much everything that we're doing. And this is why our physical activity is integral into the study of this particular topic. We often think of physical activity and kin in just terms of PE or physical education, and that's just not true. This field is so diverse and so vast, and we study sport because it does give us a little bit more, probably something more relatable of an understanding on how the different concepts of can run together. And sports are exciting, so people generally like to look at those just for the aesthetic value as well. And so this is one of the reasons why we study sports kinesiology altogether, but it's not specific to sports. Kinesiology is literally the study of human movement. So even the small things that you do every day count for that. Our next objective is getting you guys familiar with the different types of knowledge about what this field encompasses. There are some different spheres and categories that we'll put everything into, and then how you acquire that information. And generally, you get this information through your own experiences, the things that you've done on the playground, the things that you've done in sports, the ways that you study, so your scholarly knowledge, your research, and then also your professional experience, which many of you may not have, and that's okay because you're just getting started. But if you do have experience, either volunteering or maybe you have a job related to kin, then all of these things blend together in how you kind of familiarize yourself and understand the field. Whether you have developed great tactics or some knowledge is right and some knowledge or urban myths are wrong. Sometimes we learn things, and just because someone we trusted told us, we hold on to that information like it's sacred, and sometimes that's wrong. Not because you did anything wrong, but because information changes, we get better, more knowledgeable, more educated, and sometimes we can dispel some of those myths in our scholarly studies. So that's one of the reasons why your experience alone is not enough, because that's always subjective. And then our professional experience also has a large degree of subjectability in it, but your research and your scholarly knowledge will help to merge and mitigate those subjective experiences, which do count for a lot, but merge them with actual truth. And that's in another chapter where we'll get to truth assertion and probability and things of that nature. It seems a lot more complicated than it really is, but trust me, lots of fancy words at the beginning, but this is a great field to study. I love Ken. I've been in this field for 19 years. All right, and then we have helping you gain a preliminary understanding of the nature of whatever profession you're trying to engage in. This overview class actually will help you a lot. I've had people swear up and down that they wanted to do this field in kin, they want to work in this specific area, and after taking this class, they completely changed their major, or they completely changed the area of kinesiology that they wanted to work in. So it's really important that you get a solid understanding of what each of these subfields mean, and that way you will not be shocked. I like to give people the good, the bad, and the ugly. So, what we're going to do here is I will kind of quickly peruse through interest in history because that's more of something you should read on your own. And it does take up a lot of time in the lecture, and I don't like the lectures to be that long online. So we'll just kind of briefly peruse these things. So the number of undergraduates majoring in kin between the years 2003 and 2008, within that 5 year span, increased by 50%. And part of that is kin is still a very, very popular major. And I think that's evident when we see all about the sports teams and the different injuries that people get. They like to go to sports doctors to help them heal. Everyone loves athletics. Everyone loves recreational activities. And so this is one of the reasons why the field has consistently grown, is because it's popular, it's entertaining, it's fun. There are aspects of kinesiology that you can do throughout the gamut of your life. And so we have started merging recreation, fun, entertainment, and the like into the kinesiology based field. Now, what also is equally as important, if not more important, is the fact that kinesiology and health are interconnected. And as we have learned that you have to be able to move well in the vast majority of cases in order to be healthy, there's this correlation between health and movement science has sparked the world and kind of let them know, hey, physical education is not just throwing a ball around. There's some real science here. And so, because of this and many other reasons, this field has grown by 50% just in that last 5 years. So, we're going to go ahead and move on from this slide and look at some of the different disciplines or subdisciplines within kinesiology. So, what we have here is this sphere that has these interrelated concepts. So, kinesiology really is a science. And one of the reasons why sometimes people struggle in this field is because they don't realize the science aspect of it. Even if you're not going to be a doctor, you still have to understand movement, which is based in physiology and movement science and physiology, anatomy, biology, all of those things relate to kinesiology. And so those aspects can kind of be challenging for some people, and they don't realize this is a science career and that you take some of the same classes that maybe your doctors and nurses do. And it really gives a lot more legitimacy to this field because people are starting to understand that these kinesiology and movement experts, these science exercise science experts, they actually know how to prevent injury, keep you healthier. They understand the body. So it's not just a dumb jock career or major anymore. It really isn't. You have to be intelligent to be in this field, and you have to know what you're doing and be able to implement it, because sometimes the health of someone's body, their career literally lies in your hands. And if you don't know what you're doing because you didn't pay attention to the science, because you didn't think it was that important, then you're going to have a difficult time in this field. And it's also an area where many, many lawsuits are prevalent. So, really important for us to understand that there's a great scientific nature to this field, but it does interconnect also with sociology. We talked about biology, anthropology, the study, a lot of different fields, movement science, and we do have interactions with people. We touch on, many things such as culture as well, and there are great differences in culture and sport across the globe. Let's talk about the specialized knowledge of study. So, a discipline is a body of knowledge organized around a certain theme or focus um, that people kind of think is worth studying. It has to have some value associated to it. So, a subdiscipline, these are kind of fancy words, but a subdiscipline is right underneath that. It's like the child, it is pulling from the main discipline. So, if kinesiology is our discipline, then some of our subdisciplines might be, that psychology, that biology, sociology, etc. And even though it may not extensively be related to history or philosophy, depending on where you go in your field, you will use more of those subfields. So let's say you want to be a sports psychologist. then you probably would not need as much knowledge in, the biology. You still need biology. You still need to understand it, but you probably would need more of that sociology, psychology, philosophy. And then if you're on the more sports medicine side, you probably wouldn't need as much philosophy or as much sociology and psychology. You absolutely would need psychology, but probably the levels or the percentages that you would need would vary greatly depending on the discipline or the subdiscipline that you were studying. So I'm just going to move on a little more quickly. And when we talk about PE or physical activity, what our focus is, highly debated topics all over the globe. This discipline focuses on a lot of different things, mainly movement sciences, but we also learn that there are a variety of ways that people can attain this knowledge. Now, the first one is our physical activity experiences, the second is our scholarly knowledge, and the third are our professional experiences. And these aspects vary widely with people. The figure here is literally just showing what we talked about on the previous slide, that you can also look in your book for. But when we look at these three areas, remember that subjectability is very high in two of them. So our research is peer reviewed. It has a track record of being stable in terms of we accept this based on what these people who have studied it for a long time have said is to be accurate. It doesn't mean that your experiences are invalidated. It just means that we have to tie in our experiences, knowing that it won't be the same for everyone or even most people. Sometimes the experiences can be very, very specialized versus a more general approach. And that can vary based on a variety of factors: money, culture, opportunity, exposure, talent, environment. And so these things can shape our own experiences, but they don't create facts. Now, facts and information, what we get from the scholarly portion, are really important. What is physical activity? Um, Pretty self explanatory, but let's get down to some of the nitty gritty. So, the technical definition does not include aspects of movement that are involuntary, such as your heart beating. Now, you want your heart to beat, but you are not specifically causing that heart to beat. So, that's an involuntary movement. Or let's say you have a muscle spasm, involuntary. That doesn't constitute physical activity. It is movement, but it's not physical activity. And then, or we also come to exercises or moves that are performed with absolutely no purpose, just none whatsoever. That's not physical activity. And it's really important because this is also on the test, but it's also an important distinction that you should know when you're talking about things such as exercise. And that's later on in the chapters, in other chapters, or if you want to take personal training, they also talk about exercise prescriptions. So this would be really relevant for that. The technical definition of activity or physical activity is something that you do on purpose. So it's intentional, something that you do voluntarily. So it's not involuntary, it's not a muscle spasm or something that just happened without you trying. And it's also directed towards a goal. There is a goal attached to this movement. So it has to be intentional, it has to be voluntary, and there has to be a goal attached to the front or back end of it. That's very important. We'll talk about SMART goals later. And then also, of equal importance and also on the test, which a lot of people miss these two, not all movement is physical activity. Because remember, it has to be intentional, it has to have a goal attached to it, and has to be voluntary. So just because you move doesn't mean you're involved in physical activity. It's a movement, but it's not physical activity. I'm going to say that again because this is often missed. Not all movement is physical activity. You can move. I pick up my phone. I snap my fingers, but that's not physical activity. There has to be a purpose and intention behind it that is directed towards a measurable, achievable, reasonable, smart goal. Now, all movement is not physical activity, but all physical activity involves movement, okay? All right. Now, some of our focuses in kin are dance, exercise, our basic movements. Sometimes they're related to things called ADLs or activities of daily life, such as walking, running, etc., sports, and various types of therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy. The list goes on, but these are just a few. And as you kind of think about your career, because some people come in already, they think they know what they want to do, and that's great. We're not saying change your career. I'm saying think about what you really want to do and how that aligns with your current knowledge as well. And then also, does it align with your strengths or your weaknesses? What your undergrad degree will be in is really the starting point for everything in Ken. In this particular field now, not when I was coming up, because I'm Gen X. So we could get a bachelor's degree and we're good. Now, a bachelor's degree is like a high school diploma. You will absolutely get nowhere in kinesiology with a bachelor's degree. Nowhere. You might have an entry level career, but you won't have, generally speaking, okay, there's always outliers, but generally speaking, a master's degree is kind of your entry level into the kinesiology related fields of true payment options where you can do something with your life and not have to worry about bills. You really need a master's degree to get in, because a lot of these jobs require that, or the certifications you can't get unless you have a master's degree sitting for these types of exams. So that's something important to remember. If you don't want to get a master's degree, you're oftentimes limited to things such as, physical therapy assistant doesn't pay that much. You can't be an athletic trainer really now without it. You have to get a master's degree to even sit for NASM. You could be a personal trainer, and that doesn't pay that much unless you're many, many, many years in, and you also tend to give up a lot of your money to the gym, like half of it. So you can start your own business, entrepreneurship, but generally speaking, you're very limited in what you could do with just a bachelor's degree. You can't even really teach because you need a master's to get that teacher certification. So, very limited. If you don't want to go to grad school, that may be something you want to rethink if you would like to stay in the kin field. And also, what areas of study and career seem most interesting to you right now, and then matching that kind of with your skill set and understanding what areas you may struggle in. Because if you struggle in an area that is critical for your career choice, then you know kind of where you need to ebb and flow, study more, get a study partner, dedicate more time to certain classes, etc. Then we have things such as being honest and asking yourself how prepared you are for a career at this point. It's completely okay if you're not, because nobody walks into college 100% prepared for the career that they're going to do, or you wouldn't need college. So it's okay if you don't know. But again, assessing where you are so that you can have a plan moving forward that makes sense and that sets you up for success. And then what steps do you still need to make sure you're going to be successful? Again, a lot of people come in thinking that they're only going to need this, that, and the other, but you need a lot in Kin. It's not a career field that you can just waltz into because it's so intricate and variable that you have a set list of courses that everyone has to take, just your core lists. And these core list of classes and pieces of information are going to vary from science to psychology to sociology to health. And you have to kind of be proficient in all of them. So kinesiology, you can have a specialization, but you also need to have some general knowledge across the field. Okay, let's blow this up for you. These are some of the options that I was telling you about earlier when I said you kind of need a master's degree for these things. And you can look at the bottom here where it says BSBA degree in kinesiology. Please understand that as a teacher, you're going to need a master's degree. There are options to have a bachelor's degree with a certification and still be able to teach. I highly do not recommend that. I came from the K through 12 sector, and then I went to the 4-year college circuit and then came down to the community college circuit because, there are a lot of different options for me here. I do enjoy it. But I'm letting you know, as someone who's taught in K through 12, there is absolutely no reason for you to not get a master's degree because the certification to become a teacher is like 30 to 35 units, and a master's degree is 30 to 35 units. So it would be a total waste of your time to enter a certification program and then not get a master's degree, which is why most of the time they are embedded into one and the same, a master's degree with a certification attached to it. Um, if I can give any teachers of kin or any teachers, period, one huge point of advice that you should take is do not take the 5th-year teacher certification route in your undergrad program if it does not lead to a master's degree. It's pointless. It's an entire extra year, no master's degree. You will get your certification, but you don't have your master's degree. And that impacts substantially your earning potential. You may as well just enroll in a master's level teacher certification course, get your master's and certification simultaneously. So don't do that. You're welcome. And then the other careers that you kind of will be able to get away with a bachelor's degree: fitness leader, personal trainer, strength and conditioning specialist. Not even now you need a master's degree for most of these. Sports management, yes, but pretty much for anything except for health promotion, wellness, and fitness leader, personal trainer, you will be hard pressed now to get these jobs without a master's degree. And you can kind of look and see where your higher end earning potentials are up here with our masters or PhDs or your other doctorates in health related careers, all of which are very, very important. But remember, earning potential matters. So why Kin? Kinesiology, I just shortened it up. This term is always being debated. I think we've kind of settled on it now, but it's the best term that encompasses everything that we've seen in the previous slides, especially all the career options. And it's a traditional term. It has surpassed the general and almost disrespected term of physical education. And I used to be a PE teacher and coach. So I definitely get that people mad disrespectful, so disrespectful. Oh, you're just going to go out and throw a ball around. That's not what we did. And many of these people now who mocked us earlier suffer themselves with health related problems. So I guess, the dumb PE people won after all. But it's not just physical education. PE does not capture the wide breadth and depth of this field. It's one aspect, and physical education is regulated to just teaching, and Kin encompasses dozens and dozens of careers that are related to movement science. So it's inadequate. And there are so many different areas. These are some of the other names that kinesiology, subdisciplines that can be housed in kinesiology. And we see them all over the place. I think Northridge has recreational studies. There are some other ones called, I want to say, tourism and recreation or leisure studies. Lots of different names, but many of them encompass the same types of core requirements. And then we have a little bit of confusion sometimes with this term because in academia, especially, we do like the term kinesiology, but we do also have like adapted kin, and it's different from the clinical field. We're splitting hairs here, but I'm responsible for giving you all this knowledge. So there's a clinical aspect, which is more your sports sciences, your aspects that are more related to your biologies and your hard sciences. And then you have your academic kinesiology, which encompasses more of your philosophies and sociologies, things of that nature. When we turn to alternative medicines or different terms for kinesiology, such as applied, adapted, I personally have never seen dental kinesiology used in literature apart from this book. I have been to many a dentist because I love candy and I self employ my dentist. And I have never heard a dentist use this term. Not to say that it is not used, but in my personal experiences, I have never heard this term, not even once, be broached. But apparently it's there. Behavioral kin, spiritual kin, again, I haven't actually heard of dental spiritual kinesiology at all, ever. But that doesn't mean that it's not used in other geographical areas or that it's important in terminology depending on where you go. Now, these uses do not have large academic meaning that is old enough and widely recognized. So, again, it can be cultural, it can be geographic, it's just variable. But we do recognize the general term kinesiology overall. And then let's go talk about the most accepted form of kin, which is academic kin. And this was kind of defined, it's still new, as you can see, barely a decade old. This academic discipline is researched. This is what we teach you guys. And because it's new, but it's not new. It's new as a discipline that we're teaching people because we're now understanding the correlation between movement and health, and these as the career and kin have kind of gained popularity, we're now scrambling, so to speak, to find a term that encompasses everything and then teach these things to you all. So it's new, but it's not new. It's new in terms of its name and the discipline of movement sciences and things of that nature, but it's not really new. And so that's what we're teaching here at Pierce College, at Northridge, at other colleges and universities across the US. Now, our allied fields, think physical therapy, occupational therapy, things of that nature. Kin, of course, is going to have a strong history with these types of health education, dance, recreation, PE, or physical education, coaching, sports, large bonds. In fact, physical education and sport were often thought to be synonymous, which are absolutely not the same. And even I had to learn as a coach. I was a multi sport athlete and coach, but I had to learn when I first started teaching physical education, especially to junior high school and high school students. I cannot teach physical education to the general population of students who are not athletes like I am coaching athletes. So, athletes, we train specialization. And PE is just lifelong health where I'm trying to give you skills so you can be healthy later on. I'm trying to train you for the Olympics. And that's something that I had to learn as I gained more knowledge in teaching. So it does have kinesiology as a strong related bond to not just these three things listed here, but specifically physical education and specifically sports. Those two were almost exclusively linked to what kin is. Now these fields are kind of everything has their own specialization. And what we have is something called AFERD, which is the American Association for Health, Education, Recreation, and Dance, or American Association for Health, Physical Education, Recreation, and Dance. That's what we old folks have been using. That's what I'm going to still use until Jesus comes back. Okay, I'm going to say AFERD and I'm going to say CAFERD, which, this was for Canada, but now it's called Shape America. As of 2013, I don't care. I'm still saying AFERD. When you see it on the test, it may say AFERD, it may say shape, it may say both. They mean the exact same thing. And it's important that you know this anyway, because again, this is new. 2013. That's what, 12, 13 years ago. And someone who's 70 years old is not going to adopt to this. They're not. They probably stopped going to professional development. They don't have to, they're retired. And someone who's 60 is not going to adopt to this. I'm 44 and I'm not about to adopt to this. So it's important to understand that if you have learned terminology, it's difficult for you to just change it up. I know what it means, but you should know both terms, is my point, because you may be working with adults who are, they have finished their education and you're just getting started. And your boss is 60 or 55, and they're going to say AFERD, and you better know what they mean. And this is one of the reasons why it's important to know concepts, not just acronyms. This is small example, but you should know concepts and not definite hardcore definitions that you cannot vary from, because you'll never be successful in this field. You have to know how to apply things, not just only understand it in the exclusive content of the definition. That will very much so limit you. Alrighty, let's move on a little bit. And so we'll talk about the holistic nature of kin. And we get real philosophical here. Human beings are holistic creatures with interrelated cognitions, emotions, bodies, and souls. Nobody talks like that. Um, we're human beings, and we have all of these things about us that play into our movement patterns, is a much easier way of looking at this statement. So you kind of have to go beyond physical aspects of activity, because PE, or physical activity, or kinesiology, is really the only area of learning, or the only discipline that encompasses cognitive, behavioral, they say emotional now, and spiritual aspects, or cognitive, emotional, and kinesthetic aspects. So these are all really important concepts. And you will hear someone say maybe emotional or behavioral, and that blends in with kinesthetic. So kinesiology is very, very unique, because we are the only facet of learning, again, that encompasses that movement aspect, that kinesiological aspect. Everyone will have the cognitive based, of course, but not everyone will have that movement based. And then as we prepare to do instruction, we're going to look at quality, evidence-based practice. That's a term that you should be familiar with, and familiarize yourself with it if you're not. Expertise, not opinion. Overload. All of these are important. They're common issues that people in all aspects of kin will address. So equality, of course, evidence-based practice. That means there's proof, not your opinion, proof. Expertise, which is usually based on practice and scholarly knowledge that you have implemented and applied. And then overload. And each of these chapters will help you kind of understand these areas. And then we have professional issues, and that's a sidebar in the book that hopefully you will go back and read. So let me just pull back for you. So when we talk about professional issues in kin, the sidebar examples that you should read, it's important for you to read those, because it gives you more practical knowledge. And because most of you will not have had a professional experience yet, because you're young, it's okay. But if you haven't had that, then these professional issues and sidebars are going to be really important. So look at the citations. Very critical when you're going into graduate school. But definitely look and make sure you read well. Okay, so let's go ahead and close out of PowerPoint. And then you're stuck with me now. So a little bit of background about myself, because as I teach this class continuously over the years, I start to realize that people ask so many questions that are related to kin, even though they don't necessarily have a strong background in kin. So my background is extremely strong in kin. I was a multi-sport athlete. I literally did 6 different varsity sports at the high school and college level. I was a scholarship gymnast, which is why I have so many injuries. And just my injury factors alone have allowed me to understand not just movement science, but biology, physiology, all of that. It have allowed me to understand it so much better and then be able to implement it to you guys. So I started out as a multi-sport athlete. I did gymnastics, cheerleading, acrobatic gymnastics, which is not the same as Olympic style, which I also did in school, vault, floor, beam, all that, parallel bars. I played basketball in college as well. I played softball in college. I wrestled on varsity when I was in high school. I'm probably leaving something out. And I ran track and I ran cross country, both varsity. I was a hurdler, and I trained for the heptathlete as a heptathlete. So I have had multiple broken bones. I've had multiple Weber C fractures. In fact, right now, as I'm recording this lecture, I literally have a broken fibula twice over and torn ligament in my right ankle. So I've had a lot of injuries, ulnar neuropathy. I've had multiple level 3 concussions due to various injuries in sports. And so I really do understand movement science and how these things impact your body, how to prevent injury. We know a lot more now than we knew 30 years ago when I was first starting out in sports at the varsity level. And so I'm able to give you all of this information, which is my personal experience, my own experiences with kinesiology, but also I do have a PhD in a kin related field. My undergrad is in health and physical ed or kinesiology, as my master's degree is in education with a focus on education and teaching health and physical ed. And then I also have a doctorate in sports management and administration. I'm working on a second doctorate in public health with an emphasis on preventive care. And so I shadowed as athletic trainer, been a personal trainer, lots of things. And so I bring all of this experience into this field, into this class, which makes me a great person to kind of ask questions about a lot of different sports because I've done them and I understand them. I've also been a sports administrator for the NCAA, and I've been teaching for damn near 20 years. I'm literally in my 19th year teaching. So this is a great class for me. It's a great class for you guys to have with me teaching it because I have had a lot of experiences in kin. So when I give you information, please know that it's not just my personal experience. That is one aspect of kin and the study of it. It's also the scholarly knowledge that I have. So you have someone who's done a lot of sports, who's done a lot of activities, who's coached, who's taught at literally every level of education I've taught at, from kindergarten all the way through elementary school. I've taught middle school, I've taught high school, I've taught four-year college students, I've taught graduate students, including doctoral level students, and then I came back and I'm now teaching with you all here at the LA Community College district. So I've literally been all over the place and have seen how this information can be adapted from place to place to place. I've worked extensively with people who have had injuries. I have worked with doctors, physical therapists, occupational therapists who have formed gadgets and customized items to help people, even musicians. I am a musician as well. I play the flute, the piccolo, and the guitar, and I sing. So, of course, movement is intricated into all of these things. And so when I give you information, I don't want you to think that it's my opinion. It's not. It's not my opinion. And if it is my opinion, I will state this is my opinion and this is why I think it's right. This is experience paired with a doctorate degree, paired with another doctorate degree in progress, paired with years of professional development, paired with all of the people that I discuss and argue and debate topics with, as well as my professional experience that I've had over 2 decades. Now, that's longer than some of y'all have been alive. And that's not to downgrade anybody. It's to let you know that I really am here to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about kin. Do I know everything about this field? Of course not. Of course not. Nobody does. I'm kind of a jack of all trades, but I do know a lot about this field. And if you want to learn about kin, if you want to know the good, the bad, and the ugly, then I'm definitely the person that you want to ask questions to. Ask your questions, get the answer wrong in class so you can get it right on the test, and make sure that you study to show yourself approved. And I'm going to be here to help y'all through anything that you need. So if you have more questions, you have more comments, if you want to talk to me, come to office hours, please go back and review everything I said. And hopefully all will be well. All right. Take it easy. Bye-bye now.